about this? How about this? Whoops. Slop 60, roll the clip. Boom, boom, boom. Raw stink. Ugh! A hot sauce salesman and part-time gamer just sued a YouTuber and won bigly. Okay, guys, in the courts of Australia, a former penal colony, that is, of course, just for clarification, in case you want to Google it. Look up penal colony, Australia. Today we're talking about Karl Jobst and Billy Mitchell. Karl Jobst, if you don't know, we'll start with him. He's the guy who exposed the completionist charity scandal with Mudahar back at the end of 2023 and has exposed many speedruns and gaming challenges for being faked or cheated in.
We will examine a few instances of speedrunners that have been accused of cheating by other speedrunners because something about their speedrun didn't quite make sense.
And he was just ordered to pay William Mitchell III, more commonly known as Big Billy Longpenis, $350,000 in damages and more in regard to content that he made about Billy's alleged cheating. Alleged in games like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. This is Karl Jobst making a lot of videos about Billy Mitchell.
The vexatious nature of Billy Mitchell can't be overstated, and he has been using the legal system as a weapon for years.
Karl currently has 173 videos on his channel as of writing this, and from my searching on his channel, at least 23 of those are about Big Billy Longpenis, or approximately 13% of his video library. That's also not his name, by the way. I really don't know who this guy is. I've only seen a couple videos of Critical. He looks awesome. He looks like a really awesome guy.
I did the world's first perfect score on Pac-Man, 3,333,360. Ooh, it's exhausting to just say it.
Just the way he looks is really all that I know, and all the research that I've done is from doing this video. His name's Billy. I'll just be respectful, whatever. I don't want to get sued. He doesn't just sue people willy-nilly. We'll find out about that too. So yeah, 13% of Karl's videos are made up of content talking about Billy Mitchell. That's a lot of content for Billy's legal team to sift through to make the points that they wanted to make in their case against Karl. And with titles calling Billy gaming's biggest con man, disgraced, and cheater repeatedly, Karl was double, tripling, quadrupling, octupling, sextupling, septupling down, like literally just By the way, I'm not blaming Karl for any of this or saying that he's like asking for being sued. You can call people shit, whatever, you know, there's a reason that there's courts and lawsuits and out there and all that stuff out there. It's just the reality, right? Just trying to set the stage and show you guys that he has in fact made lots of content in regard to Billy. This isn't just random. He didn't just say, hey, I don't like your weird hair or whatever, you know, and then he got sued for it. There's a lot of context. Billy, by the way, is pretty prone to suing people, as we'll soon cover, and that is contextually relevant as well. So Billy is also known as the video game player of the century. If you search for that on Google, Billy is who pops up. He was awarded this title at the 1999 Tokyo Game Show. If you choose to believe the Billy Mitchell honors section of his own website, videogameplayerofthecentury.com, this guy loves himself. I think he was who Dr. Disrespect based his character off of. I'm not totally sure. Don't sue me. I really don't know. That was, of course, until rumors of Billy's world record runs began being called into question, and when it was suggested that these record-setting games were played on emulators rather than the original arcade cabinets that had been untampered with. Now, there is, of course, every possibility that if these games had been played on an emulator, that they weren't manipulated to be able to achieve higher scores than one might normally be able to. Just because you played on an emulator doesn't mean that. I don't want to get sued. I don't really care about this shit. I like the way this guy looks. He looks funny. I like that. I like that. I like how funny he looks, and I'm just talking about the drama. I'm the internet drama, internet commentary, big time genius, all right? And this is my son. He passed away. May God rest his soul. Please press like. Maybe he'll resurrect. And also, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, go to @2LateShowLive. It's a YouTube channel. We'll be streaming 9 o'clock Central Standard. We're bringing back the late night TV shows. I know I maybe did it a little bit on the main channel, guys. Just testing some stuff out, okay? Just kind of testing some stuff out here, all right? So anyways, about the emulator stuff, here's supposedly what the difference is between the real arcade cabinet on the left and the emulator on the right, according to a Polygon article. By the way, I'm no speedrunner, so I'm out of my depth here in so many different ways, but from my understanding, there are multiple record lists. One is for games played on arcade cabinets, and one is for games played on emulators. So this allegation about Billy's run claimed to be played on a cabinet, having been played on an emulator, was cause for an investigation from Twin Galaxies, a website that tracks world records and other stupid shit, I'm sure. They work with Guinness World Records to maintain an all-time high score list. Pretty cool. Billy had all of his records and stats removed as a result of this allegation, and he was even banned from Twin Galaxies as well as Guinness. So massive, big, huge L. Whether or not he was a world record holder, Billy is still unquestionably a very gifted gamer, achieving incredibly high gaming scores. Whether or not you are someone who believes his scores belong on the leaderboards, we can at least recognize that Billy is a G gamer. I can't game. I'm bad at gaming. I'm a big, not good gamer guy, to be honest. Apparently he's a massive legend too. Like, a lot of people really like Billy Mitchell, but a lot of people also really hate him. I think it's because he's kind of cringe. I think people just hate him because he's kind of cringe. Although I have seen big fans of Billy, and they seem like they maybe breathe through their mouths mostly. It seems like a consistent thing. I love this dude. We need to bring this back. We need to bring back the 1999 Tokyo Game Show, but just do it in Texas, maybe. Or maybe we can do it in international waters so there's no rules. It's wild looking at all of this old world record stuff for Billy too. Like this video, for example, his 1 million score from King of Kong. Every comment, people call him Billy Bitchel. I call him Billy Longdick. I really don't, I'm not in the world of this, so the hate is like, I'm more of like a, I laugh at this type thing. Like I'm not that ingratiated in the world of insane levels of competition when it comes to game number scores and stuff. So I apologize if I'm not hating on Billy enough. He's still good at video games. Or maybe he's not. Maybe he sucks and he's a bitch, and Billy Bitchel, and I didn't even know. Maybe I just didn't even know about that. Anyways, whether or not the hate and the removal of his scores and stuff are justified, it's not my place to judge, really. I do a lot of unjustified judging, but specifically here, game scores for world records, I don't know shit about that, and I don't want to. I really don't want to. This is important because this would all be a catalyst for Billy Mitchell pursuing litigation after multiple individuals and entities all the way up to why we're talking about him today. That is with Karl Jobst. The many lawsuits of Billy Mitchell. This guy is hard stuck on his record being legit, which, you know, with a guy who looks like this, all right, you think he maybe peaked a while back. Okay, so it's fair. He's gonna be really, you could sue people for anything, basically, it seems like. So yeah, Billy wants everybody to believe that his record is legit, and that if you have anything to say about it, you'll be getting a swift backhand from his epic lawyer who looks just as cool as he does, all right? Which I believe that shit. Billy Mitchell has been suing anyone he can over the years, especially if you question his video game skills, which is why I've been glazing him. Just kidding. I really don't know. He seems good. I don't know. He's better than I am. All right? Teach me though, down in the comments. Tell me, I need to be caught up faster than, this is like all news for me. It's not, I don't know the lore. I'm trying to learn the lore, but it's all news right now. News takes a while to turn into lore. There are some funny lawsuits. The funniest one was the first one from what I could find, which was against Cartoon Network in 2015. You've probably seen this image of this guy's big ass head. Cartoon Network had a dedicated episode called High Score, and the premise being the two main characters were trying to get a universal high score in a game called Borkin Bones. And once they got close to the record, a giant floating head named Garrett Bobby Ferguson, aka GBF, appears and begs them to leave the record and let him win. For it's all he has, and he's nothing without it. He even states that his own wife had left him since he devoted his life to the game.
One game for the universe record. Winner gets all the respect. Let's play.
However, Mordecai and Rigby, because it's from that show with Mordecai and Rigby, don't give a f***, and after beating the high score, the head explodes into white goo. Obviously, this upset Billy Mitchell, realizing that it is an obvious parody of his looks, despite it just being a floating head, mocking his King of Kong thing, you know, Bing of Bong, whatever the f***, King of Kong nonsense, Billy Mitchell. Long dick, whatever the f*** you want to call him, I don't know, dude. How about the Holy Relic? Let's give up. Let's give big praise to this thing in the comments. W Holy Relic. Let's get that in the chat. Run that up for me, all right? Run that shit up for me. After this was brought to court, the judge ruled this was protected by the First Amendment. Parody! And the judge also said, pretty funny too, and that it was obviously not a realistic depiction of Mitchell, and probably through tons of laughter and tears, the case was dismissed. Imagine sobbing over a cartoon spoof of yourself and then receiving further humiliation by losing the case. That, I kind of think, is why a lot of people clown on Billy Mitchell. to be honest. And I get it too. That is a really embarrassing thing to get really upset over. My giant head is in Cartoon Network. In 2020, Billy Mitchell sued Twin Galaxies due to them disqualifying his score. And he sued because this claim from Twin Galaxies held weight and in turn was ruining his reputation. They said that his things weren't valid because he used an emulator, and this was all because of, I don't know, dude. It's really wild. This whole thing is very confusing. And honestly, my initial perspective of me thinking it's funny because he looks funny is it gets way worse. This guy deserves to be made fun of a lot, like really a whole lot, to be honest. My plan was to initially appear as someone who really liked Billy Mitchell and then slowly get red-pilled throughout, but I just can't do that. This is really bad. I'm sorry it's taken this long to it gets way worse. Let's just say that. The Twin Galaxies case in 2020 delved into extensive legal arguments such as the authenticity the authenticity of the evidence in the arcades supposedly tampered with software. It was a wild one, all right? You should have been there. If we skip a few years ahead, in January of 2024, Twin Galaxies did reinstate his records and scores into their historical database. Although it reinstated the scores, it did not mean that they agree and affirm the authenticity of the record. So it's like, sure, Billy, you win, but at what cost? The cost of truth and honesty. The next lawsuit goes back to our chronological order in 2020 against a YouTuber known as Apollo Legend, aka Ben Smith. Apollo Legend was a YouTuber that commented on events and happenings in the speedrunning community, and he showed various examples of fake speedruns on his channel. One video included that of Billy Mitchell alleging yet again that he had cheated to get his high score and was known for this. This claim by Apollo led Mitchell to yet again throw another lawsuit at yet another person that these claims were defamatory and caused harm to his reputation because he's the greatest gamer of all time. Play real games, like Elden Ring, Billy. Or are you maidenless? Kind of an old meme, but it's true though, probably. Is he maidenless? Can I get sued for asking whether or not he's maidenless? I just don't want to get sued. I'm just like enjoying my life. You know? The lawsuit between Billy and Apollo was quickly resolved and settled outside of court in October of 2020, refraining him from speaking about Billy Mitchell ever again and taking down his current videos of him. So, you know, that's kind of an easier way to deal with it, I suppose, but tragically after this, Ben Smith, aka Apollo Legend, would take his own life in December of 2020, allegedly due to mental health struggles, allegedly, and from allegedly bullying the community, allegedly that he would allegedly critique, allegedly. This is a travesty, and the reason that I'm saying allegedly so much, we will get into. It's not out of disrespect for Apollo, it is just a very hot button topic in regard to all this. Mental health is not something to joke about, especially when it ends in someone making an ultimate decision like that. So, you know, I'll try to be as respectful as I possibly can. A full year would pass before the next lawsuit would be dealt out by Big Billy, and the next people unfortunate enough to suffer his wrath were Jeremy Young and Jeff Harris, both men associated with an old forum called Donkey Kong Forum, which that shit hasn't been relevant since ever. Has Donkey Kong ever been relevant outside of like the 80s or whatever the dude? I mean, like, well, who's playing that shit? Billy Mitchell is, every single goddamn. This lawsuit included the both of these fellers and involved them allowing the anti-high score Billy Mitchell claims to brew on the Donkey Kong forum, with themselves included doing some of the brewing. The controversy expanded on the age-old allegation that the arcade hardware was not authentic, therefore stating that he had allegedly cheated. Again, we can historically prove this. Billy Mitchell was not happy in the slightest that people were still accusing him of cheating. A while after this lawsuit began against these Donkey Kong fellas, in 2022, Mitchell voluntarily dismissed the lawsuit against both of them, but planned to refile the lawsuit at a later date. This seemed like it was meant to strike fear in their hearts, I guess. I'm not totally sure what the point of that is. I don't really know Billy Mitchell all that well. I'm looking at this camera now, all right, guys? Now I'm looking at that one. Now I'm looking at that one. Now I'm looking at that one. There's not one over there. I'm just making shit up. Billy really doesn't like it when people mess with him, though. for real. In spite of Billy's intent to refile, the lawsuit was never refiled, and this was due to the tragic death of Jeff Harris in 2022 due to COVID-19. So very bad track record of suits, and just this shit is just so bad. Billy's got the worst luck with suing people. And how bad can this story get? After these fellas, the next in chronological order is the lawsuit against Karl, but it's a big, giant one that just ended, and that's pretty much what we're talking about today. So we'll skip past him, talk about another guy. We'll go back to Karl. David Race, another fella, was given a lawsuit from Billy Mitchell, who stated that Race had illegally recorded their phone conversation in private without consent, and this led to a suit under Florida law stating it requires all parties to consent to a recorded conversation. So apparently that's the thing there. And Race, David, is a prominent figure in the community for holding records in Pac-Man and other games. Who the f are these people, dude? Race made the mistake of accusing Billy Mitchell that his record was fabricated, which led to the suit and also the phone conversation thing. However, this case went in favor of David because the phone call originated out of state, therefore it was not under Florida law technically, so I'm not really sure, but so yeah, David Race won. Now to Karl. Over the course of Karl's lawsuit, he has remained extremely optimistic that he will win and that Billy will give him his comeuppance. And in a video from 2022, Karl opens up by stating that Billy had sued him for $450,000 Australian dollars because of a video in which Karl said that Billy cheated. Karl also revealed that Notch, the creator of Minecraft, had backed him in his defense as well, which is really interesting. It's like having a superhero back you. Who's next? Jack Black?
Notch, the creator of Minecraft, was very helpful in the beginning and has supported me a lot. And then another gentleman by the name of Julian was extremely generous and funded a huge amount of money.
It seems that Billy held nothing back when it came to legal action against Karl. In one of the first videos, Karl talked about how Billy sued him over a joke that was years old and wasn't even made by Karl and doesn't have Karl speaking in it at all.
But just think about this for a moment. The video wasn't about Billy Mitchell at all. I didn't talk about him or mention him. In fact, the video was about me cheating. All I did was include a 10-second meme that I didn't make, that isn't even of me talking, that's an obvious joke, that was released years ago and already has millions of views. And Billy Mitchell started legal action against me, claiming that it's defamation.
It's just because he used a clip calling Billy a cheater that justified the lawsuit in Billy's mind. And from the very beginning, Karl has believed that Billy was insane, not only because of his actions, but also because he puts the word in every single YouTube video about Billy. Insane, Billy Mitchell. He is pretty insane, I've got to say. He does some crazy, wild, off-the-wall shit, so. From the beginning of the lawsuit, over the next years, there's lots of videos from Karl on Billy, and he really highlights how insane all of this gets in those videos. In July of 2023, Billy attended a small gaming convention in England where he held a Q&A and went on a rant against Karl, saying that he is lying about the purpose of his GoFundMe for crowdfunding his legal defense, etc., and that the crowd and Karl's supporters are silly for supporting him. And Karl then says in his video that he believes Billy pays the person who asks him questions to make him look good on stage, which is so funny. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. That's an allegation, not true. I don't know, but I would do that if I was Billy, for sure.
But the lady asking him questions was an obvious Billy shill who was parroting his talking points and giving him softballs to answer.
That is currently a case that's still going through the court process with Karl Jobst, isn't there?
He's astonished by the fact that Billy believes that the reason why Karl makes so many videos of him is that he gets $30,000 a video. Billy believes that? That's a lot. You'd have to be crazy big YouTuber to get 30K a video. That's insane. In reality, according to Karl, he makes about $2,000 a video and shows that the cost of his lawyers are more than the money that he's bringing in. So he's at he's in the red because of the legal fees. Legal shit is very expensive and just so draining. That's the whole point of it most of the time, is just to drain someone for long enough to where they have to give up. Karl also talks about how Billy backed out of his second lawsuit because of his scare tactic of threatening a massive lawsuit, and it just didn't work, so he just backed out of it.
I guess his legal threats ended up backfiring when I made my video saying he was going to sue me again, and I ended up getting a ton of support.
He does his best to show how fragile Billy is, and he does a good job. It seems like Billy is a crazy, fragile, weird, insano guy. And from what I've seen on the internet up until this point, in spite of what I've said and joked about, etc., etc., I've seen Critical cover it. I maybe have seen one or two of Karl's videos before in regard to this. I definitely got that vibe. The guy is a funny looking guy, but he's also seems like a crazy dude who peaked when he got a pretty high score at Donkey Kong. And like, he really wants to be known as the best in the world. It's kind of sad and just, I don't know, man. It's not, there's more important things in life, right? Karl shows and believes that he isn't really even in it for the money. He just wants to control any narrative surrounding him. And Billy has publicly said that he only sued Karl once, but this is not true. And it's more evidence that Karl points out ahead of the trial.
Billy claims that I said he was suing me again while providing zero proof. But again, if you watch the video, you see instantly that this is a complete fabrication. I mean, I quite literally show the second lawsuit on screen when talking about it.
Billy and his team had also been sending numerous letters of concern on Billy's behalf, threatening all sorts of legal action. The guy really likes just sue him. Shut him up. That's like the fun of being on the internet. People can just kind of say, you know, whatever they want. And it's so rare to win a defamation lawsuit. It's like one of the most difficult nightmare situations to win. It's unbelievable. The end of this is unbelievable. Billy went so far as to say that he never intended to even sue Karl, but couldn't ignore him anymore, which seems like, up until this point, this goes against the numerous legal letters that he had sent to Karl months before this video.
In July of 2020, he sent me a concerns notice, which is the document you need to send to someone before you can sue them for defamation. And this was immediately after I posted my very first video that had anything to do with Billy Mitchell.
All of this leads Karl to believe that he is justified in his defense and has the confidence that he will be fine against Mitchell's legal team when the time comes. This is extremely prevalent in his video where he announced that he was finally going to trial against Billy. Karl talks about how Billy is purposely delaying the trial to sink Karl further into debt. Another common tactic.
The sooner we can go to trial, the sooner this will all be over and we can all move on. But every step of the way, Billy has been doing everything in his power to delay trial as much as possible.
He talks about how this trial has been consuming his life almost entirely, resulting in him only posting videos about Billy. However, it seemed Karl had become overly optimistic. He seemed like he was going to win. That's what I've heard from my friends and videos I've seen of people who have made videos about Billy and just kind of looking at the titles. I don't really watch them, to be honest, but I figured Karl would be fine. And Billy's, you know, this weird looking, I'm Billy, man, he's really good at video game guys. The over-optimism, though, putting the cart before the horse, it seems like. Well, we know now in retrospect it was putting the cart before the horse. Karl emphasized quite a bit that he will most likely win and that he won't let Billy weasel away and get away with this trial so he can face justice. He is so bold as to go on a rant about how he's going to take Mitchell down and give him what he deserves, and all of this being said before he has even gone to trial and won the case, and that it's a big, you know, bad thing. He does discuss the consequences of losing, like how he will have to pay the $500,000 in legal fees around there, plus whatever Billy is owed, but he is so confident that nothing will happen that it's not even a major point in the video, which is wild and kind of fucked up and sad if you think about it. But
more than anything is for Billy to have his ass handed to him in court. We want to see a real bona fide loss. Honestly, at this point, Billy's lawsuit against me is the world's last chance to see this epic defeat happen.
I don't know a lot about the legal system, especially not in the penal colony of Australia, but I'm not sure that a judge and jury, if they've even got those, would look too kindly on a defendant who is gloating about their success online before a trial has even come, especially when the gloating has a paid ad segment for display in the middle of it.
In this video, we will take a quick look at Billy's most recent failed attempt to sue an innocent person. I really hope you enjoy. Now legends, it's Christmas time, and what better way to spoil yourself or someone you love than with a beautiful poster from Displate.
I'm not really sure. Only recently we learned the actual outcome of the trial, like yesterday, basically. I'm not sure when this is gonna come out. It's a pretty long video, so it might take a couple days to turn it around, but we'll probably have a fucking retrial or some shit, I don't fucking know. A few weeks ago on Twitter, we learned when the decision on Jobst v. Mitchell would be, after Karl tweeted March 18th announcing it would be delivered on April 1st. I saw it last night, and I thought it was an April Fool's joke. I don't want to clown on him too much because it is embarrassing how confident he is in this whole thing and how much he trolled Billy. And the first W that I've ever seen Billy take, ever, since I've even known about this weird-looking guy, is this. That's bad. Oh, by the way, the decision was live streamed on YouTube, and we will be able to watch him win or lose in real time. The link to that no longer works, saying that the video has been removed by the uploader. I don't know why it was removed. Maybe the reception to the decision was, uproarious, and they just took it down. I'm not exactly sure. It has been re-uploaded, and we've got it. It was re-uploaded in its entirety to a bunch of other channels, and it's here. It's bad. There are also the official court documents online, 120 pages worth that we'll be pulling some screenshots from. You can skip through this stuff. This is the more legal side of it. The judge visits a ton of stuff. He talks about Billy and Billy's history. He goes over the cheating allegations. The judge talks about the lawsuit against Twin Galaxies and Apollo Legend. This is where the judge starts talking about Karl Jobst and his videos about Billy. This all starts with the May 26th video from 2021 titled "The Biggest Con Men in Video Game History Strike Again." The judge talks about Karl's large viewership and its potential effects on Billy's reputation. The idea is that plenty of people could have had their impression of Billy tainted by the content that Karl was making, and at least several hundred people commented on the video saying that Billy is an evil, Billy Bitchel, or he's a scumbag, or a murderer, or directly responsible for the suicide of Apollo Legend. This is super important, by the way.
The video containing all of the offending passage was downloaded in the periods that it was online by over 500,000 people, including over 20,000 in Australia. Since then, over 8,000 comments have been made on the video, including at least 396 that, it may be said, accused Mr. Mitchell of causing Apollo Legend to commit suicide, and even called him a murderer, evil, and a scumbag.
So this is the most important part of the whole thing, because I didn't know this until yesterday. Billy sues Jobst for defamation, seeking $400,000 in general damages and $50,000 in aggravated damages, not so much for calling him a cheater, for Jobst calling Billy Mitchell a cheater, rather the implication from Karl that Apollo Legend had to pay Billy in his settlement originally, or that potentially Billy played a role in the death of Apollo Legend, the suicide. This last part here, in essence, hounded Apollo Legend to death. That seems like the major point in all of this. The court files also cite that Karl's general attitude since the first publication of his video has been aggravating towards Billy, causing more damage. Then the judge goes over Karl's defense, and Karl's argument is that Billy had a pre-existing negative reputation, so his coverage of these allegations would not have harmed him further, which is true with the whole, Rigby thing. I mean, obviously, Billy had a reputation before that point for suing people and a reputation for ostracizing those who don't recognize his achievements. Billy's a big joke. Okay, that's fun.
As to his alleged pre-existing bad reputation, I have found that Mr. Mitchell did have a reputation as a cheat in Donkey Kong, and a reputation for suing people who alleged that he was a cheat. I have found that he did not have a reputation for ostracizing anyone he considered a threat to his achievements.
I can definitely see that. Definitely see that. The judge sees that as well, also agrees that he had a pre-existing reputation as a cheater and for suing people, but not for ostracizing his critics. Then we talk about contextual defamatory imputations, which I don't know what the that means, and that they were substantially true according to Karl, and they could not have caused greater harm to Billy's reputation. 1. Mr. Mitchell was publicly exposed for cheating to achieve a score. 2. Mr. Mitchell was banned from submitting scores to Twin Galaxies because of his cheating. 3. Mr. Mitchell planned to create a video he could fraudulently use to claim he'd achieved a high score. By the way, this was the only one that was found untrue by the judge. 4. Mr. Mitchell had expressed joy at the thought of Apollo Legend's death. And 5. Mr. Mitchell used litigation to force opposition to recognize his achievements. The judge then goes over his role in the matter and his reasoning. He's not here to determine whether or not Billy cheated. He's here to determine whether or not Karl had damaged Billy's reputation via defamatory statements made in his videos and online. The judge viewed Karl's attitude as, well, if I'm gonna get sued, I may as well go for broke and damn the consequences. And he was continuously asserting and aggravating and making things worse by making so much content on it. The judge also found that Karl's efforts to retract incorrect statements about Billy were insufficient. Apparently he made a lot of false statements. Karl retracted his statement about Apollo Legend paying Billy and apologized to his fans for the incorrect statement, but he did it in a way that the judge didn't like. He only retracted the statement about Apollo Legend paying Billy to his fans, not to Billy, and also the retraction was buried at the end of a 30-minute long video about a completely different topic, rather than being placed in a video where it would be seen by more people or in its own video It didn't seem like he actually really...
According to them, despite Mitchell's best efforts, Apollo Legend would not pay any money, and in the final version of the settlement, there was no clause indicating that he was required to do so. Therefore, the statement I made in that video was almost certainly incorrect. I sincerely apologize for providing false information.
The judge really does not like Karl at all in this whole thing. And this is terrible because at this point, if you look at the judge, if you look through this window of what exactly is going on here, all the fragile Billy ego stuff doesn't seem that relevant. It seems like it's Karl kind of making a lot of videos and asserting things about someone who committed suicide in regard to being sued by someone. Like, I didn't know about any of that at all up until all this stuff. And I feel like my opinion may have been definitely different. Sure, I still think Billy's a goober, but this is bad. This is really bad. I kind of understand why he totally lost. I mean, that's just bad and up. I don't know if I'm an idiot for saying that or whatever the fuck. The retraction added even more incorrect information according to the judge, and that was by saying Billy had never reached out to clear up the error and that he still insisted that Billy was responsible for the death of Apollo Legend. So I'm gonna make it super clear. I had no idea about all that, any of that stuff. The whole Apollo Legend thing, I didn't realize that he was insisting that. I don't watch the 30 minutes into an Elden Ring video. That has nothing to do with it. I didn't know about any of that shit, dude. That gives an entirely different look to this whole lawsuit, and it seems less about fragile video game ego stuff and more so about a really wild claim that you're responsible for someone's suicide and like publicly retracting statements in regard to it and just kind of, this is bad. The judge does not like Karl at all. He thinks it's even worse than any of us. So yeah, then the judge eventually awards damages to Billy Mitchell, and he essentially says that Billy destroyed Karl, literally comparing it to Billy calling in an airstrike on him, which is so crazy.
As I say in my reasons, this submission might be described as suggesting that Mr. Mitchell called in an airstrike on his own position. I disagree, both by making the response video and by bringing this proceeding against Mr. Jobst. Far from calling in an airstrike on his own position, was necessary for Mr. Mitchell and reasonable for Mr. Mitchell to identify the enemy's position clearly in order to call in an airstrike on it. That is what he has done.
The S-slide accusations are definitely the defamatory aspect of this. It's funny, based on this, it seems like Karl could have said, "You're a cheater, you're a stupid cheater, bitch, you're ugly, your hair is weird, and you're super weird looking." He could have said that a lot of times, and this shit would have just been thrown out eventually. But the little extra thing in there just really hammered in. Karl has been ordered to pay Billy a shit ton of money. And on top of that, Karl has to pay Billy's legal fees, which we don't have any idea what that is, but I assume it's a lot of money. Probably more than you'd think. Probably over 100 grand. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it seems like a lot. This has been a very long case. So after that, Karl tweeted, "I lost. The judge found Billy to be a credible witness and believed his entire testimony. From that point on, unfortunately, there was really nothing that could have saved me. I will now obviously consider my options. I know many of you will be upset with this, and I'm sorry for that. Thank you again for all the support I've received, and I will endeavor to work as hard as I can to repay you what you are all owed." People were pretty mad. A lot of people who are fans of Karl, very mad. People who are fans of the whole situation who want to see Billy take the L, very mad, because a lot of them were convinced that the reason for the lawsuit was, simply because Billy can't, he's fragile, and Karl said he cheated, and he's like, "Oh, you're a cheat, Billy, and you're so dumb," rather than the Apollo Legend claims, which are just way different. A lot of people who supported Karl felt misled, if not just blatantly lied to. Roside Phil tweeted, "So I either wasn't paying attention or I bought what I was fed. I thought the Karl Jobst defamation suit was in regard to Karl calling Billy a cheat. Imagine my surprise when I learned it was about Karl saying Billy directly contributed to Apollo Legend's death." So after the dust is starting to settle, Karl reveals that he has paid over $600,000 in legal fees, which he was hoping would have been paid for by Billy since he was expecting to win. I don't know if Billy's are gonna be more than that. He's gotta pay that back, dude. It's like $1 million loss. This is crazy. And it's so hard to win a defamation suit too, which is what is crazy to me. I say that shit like I fucking know. I've heard people say that a lot. I'm not a lawyer. I have no idea. Also, around the time that the result of the trial was announced, Karl released another video. I watched it. It was like 20 minutes after I heard the news, and I was like, this has nothing to do with this at all. He took that down though and left a comment on it, and man, it's just weird. So yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know down below. Do you think Karl's intentions were good, or did he mislead his fans? I think personally that he had good intentions, definitely has good intentions. A lot of people don't like Billy Mitchell. It's a very easy target, it seems like, you know, just a punching bag. From just what I've learned researching this for this video, it really does seem like Karl had good intentions. I do genuinely believe that. I don't think he misled his fans. I think this should have been a slam dunk case. I think it's very stupid to include anything about the Apollo legend thing. Accusing someone of that is just like, of course they're gonna defend themselves. You can't prove that. I mean, like, how would you ever be able to prove that? If it was over cheating, this would be a funny, joking L, but it's over a guy's death, which is really sad and seems dumb that I ever even thought. So anyways, let me know what you guys think down below, and press the like button, go to sour.gg, go to the Gump Club to watch uncensored videos, and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 Central Standard, we got the Too Late Show. We stream live, Too Late Show live, channel will be in the description. See you guys in the next video.